Welcome to Chasing a Murder. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and hit the notification bell if you would like notifications whenever we have new uploads. So right now, we are on Life Beyond the Grave, part 23. Last video, we learned a little bit about the religion side of the teachings of Chad, at least. And right now, I'm going to go into this. Remember, Chad Daybell has what he calls a near-death experience when a wave tumbles over him. And he says, after that experience, I was a changed person. I didn't care about being an athlete anymore. I decided to give up baseball. I still play basketball, but not with much enthusiasm. Chad says, I don't remember talking to anyone in the white light, but I began to devour church-related books, the scriptures, Bruce R. McConkie, and others like him. He says the books that he read, he thought that he would need this information later on in life. I still had a social life, a great set of friends, but I became very receptive to sensing spirits. Also, he was feeling promptings and impressions. This is a very interesting statement. He says those spirits and promptings helped him steer clear of people and situations that might lead me into trouble. And remember, he believes that he can see the spirit world. So he says in retrospect, I believe that when I hit the water, my personal veil was torn open and didn't seal back properly. It's from that point that I would occasionally get glimpses about my future. It was annoying but tolerable. Then, 8 years later, I had another water-related experience that really threw the barn doors open, so to speak, on my interaction with the other side. I'll share that experience in my next entry. So here we are, over the 8 years later, and Chad Daybell is writing a series of books. And these series of books are about the end of the world, about preparing for the new Jerusalem, also known as Zion. The recession had really hurt his book publishing company, and he found himself having to go back to work at the cemetery. He says, suddenly, I was working about 50 hours a week at the cemetery, clearing snow, digging graves. In retrospect, both Tammy and I were in shock how quickly things had fallen apart. I was ready to put the whole publishing industry in a rear-view mirror. We had felt so guided and inspired to start the company, and then 4 years later, we're just done. I had written 3 volumes of the Standing in Holy Places series by this time, and I was about ready to call it quits on that project too. However, our cemetery secretary, Marty Warren, read my books and became a great support to me. So we went over this last video where he is about to give up writing altogether, which probably would have been the best thing for him. But a friend of his is kind of like, no, we're waiting on more books. Continue to write. And for me, researching Chad Daybell, he wants to feel loved and wanted, and that his skills are important to other people. And so, this basically gives him a second wind. This series of books is the very beginning, and it's in 2007, 2008, that his thoughts and ideals are focused on the end of the world, building for the end of the world, so the new Jerusalem, Zion. He's starting to lose his faith in the leaders, and he starts to also believe that he knows better than the prophets of the church. But Chad treads lightly at first, and he begins to search for people more like him, people who could follow his lead, send the messages he needed sent, and to help him build his throne. And again, I want to remind you that Chad will tell people that he has the support of the LDS leaders, but in reality, he knows that he is laying false foundations and building very thin sticks and small cities. And like we mentioned last time, so he's advertising castles and Disneyland. But in reality, it's nothing but white tents, starvation, loss of financial support, homes, etc. Chad has a vision he really never tells his closest family members, which is his parents and brothers. They have to read to find out about these things themselves. And this includes him ruling a land he built and to run it as his own community, but putting a fictional character there to replace him. The series includes The Gathering, Celestial City, The Rise of Zion, The Keys of the Kingdom. While Chad is inspired to continue writing his books, Joseph Ryan, around December 19th of 2008, requested dismissal of an appeal against Lori Vallow in the Third Court of Appeals, the 345 District Court in Travis County, Texas. So the court grants his request. Joseph Anthony Ryan versus Lori Noreen Vallow appeal it's canceled. So a lot of people are wondering, why did he do this? Is he scared because of the attack, so the taser attack? Not really certain if that's it, because shortly after this, Joe gets to spend time with his daughter after not seeing her for a very long time. And there's a lot of mental evaluations going on around this period of time. So we're hitting January 2009. In one of Chad Daybell's future blogs, 2015, September 7th, he starts talking about when he switched his job because of the public book publishing company not doing so well. He says he works as a Spanish Fork sexton from 2009 to 2013 before returning to Springville for a year. And so we're learning that Chad says around 2000 he retires as a sexton. And during his time as that sexton, he is compiling all these ghost stories. And he's putting it into a book that he names One Foot in a Grave. Inside he writes, a strange but true experience of a cemetery sexton. He says, quote, it's hardly a literary classic, but there are some humorous and informative chapters in it. I tried to make it as lighthearted as possible. It's available on Amazon in Kindle form. Chad's cemetery job gives him plenty of time to come up with great ideas for many of his books. And the environment is more than perfect if you want to write a ghost book. He only needs to work there, it seems, whenever things aren't going well and he wants more time to put into himself and his ideas and his writing. But once the books are finished, it's time to promote them, he quits the job so that he can travel, sign the books, promote his books. So keep that in mind. This is happening, throughout 2000. So let's think about everything he's doing in between, everything he's doing in 2000. So in blogs, Chad writes in the future about his past as a grave digger. He describes his emotions and feelings and things that he experienced as during his time as a sexton. In my opinion, he attempts to make it seem genuine, but doesn't seem so genuine to me. But he drops an interesting hint. A hint that he's dealing with dark energy. Chad explains that he likes his job. He likes working with his coworkers. But he says this gift that he has of being able to see spirits is working against him in some way. Chad explains in a blog that he was dealing with an emotional baggage. Each day at work would add another pebble to my invisible emotional backpack. The backpack just got too heavy after about 5 years, and leaving the sexton job was the only way I could shake off the baggage. Sad funerals would obviously add a few extra pebbles, but I also sense other situations, such as when a mother would come the night before and cry on her son's grave. That energy still radiated the next morning. It wasn't necessarily a dark energy, but the grief that mother felt would weigh me down. So here, when I read this, I felt as if he was manipulating his emotions to fit whatever seemed right, so was okay and accepted, and also had some kind of meaning to it. He even manipulates things himself to make himself feel better. So there you go. So Chad is becoming quite manipulative with his little gift. He even wrote in one blog that he gets some heavenly advice that tells him that one man should be a cub leader. He said that Spirit was correct because he brought the best snacks to meetings. So I guess the Spirit is picking people that will make him happy. But what are the dark spirits? What are the dark energies? During this time, Chad says he's moving up the LDS ranks and went from bishop of his ward to now stake president. But what are these dark energy? What is it? He doesn't really say, does he? So let's jump over to Lori's side. So during this time, her and Charles, they're married. Things are working out pretty well. You have to know that Charles must be part of some of this drama going on between Lori and Joseph. But how far does he get into this? I really haven't found any evidence so far. But we know he's experiencing something. Colby Ryan's life seems to be getting a lot better. He seems happier during this time. But things are not so well for Tylee Ryan. She's such a young child, and she's experiencing a lot of manipulation. A lot of it at cost. She becomes ill often. And Tylee's GAL is having concerns of where the stress is coming from and suspect that her mother plays a huge role in the illness of Tylee Ryan. And my heart goes out to this child. So what's going on with Lori? Why is there so much drama in her life? Constantly bickering with the family. But Lori Vallow believes that she's living a righteous life and living by the rules of the LDS and God himself. Lori Vallow is often overwhelmed by her own drama, her own lifestyle, and she feels as if these things happen to her not because of her, but because it is the evil that is after her and affecting her life. Some people who follow this story believe that Lori isn't as religious as she plays to be. But I find that Lori feels drawn to lead within the LDS and is wondering if there's anyone who is just like her out there. Someone that has the same desires as she has, and to be the best representation for those beliefs as a leader, even a bishop, or over the church or ward. We have heard that she encouraged her ex-husband Joseph Ryan to be more involved with the church. And then does she feel the same way with Charles? So though Lori is active within the church, and as is Charles, she's kind of meeting dead ends when it comes to team and moving forward in this belief system. And through witnesses and past friends, it seems that her religion was very, very important to her, and so was her future with her belief system. And we know that she requires her men to convert in order to marry. And the type of girl that she is it's my way or the highway. So during this time, Tammy Daybell, according to Chad Daybell, is going through one of the most stressful times in her life. While Chad is working at the cemetery, he says Tammy is working for the Art City Elementary School as a computer lab teacher. Tammy was having a hard time. Chad said he believed that at that time, Tammy was having a nervous breakdown because she was so overwhelmed. Remember, Chad often mentions that Tammy is the backbone of the family and the business. Tammy and her mother played a huge role in the book company. And it's during sometime in this period in between 2000 and 2013 that he says that he and Tammy have the most trying times of their marriage. Julie Rowe says that Chad gives his wife Tammy a priesthood blessing to relieve the stress and assures her that he sees her envisioned as being a grand teacher for the spirit. And he tells his wife Tammy that he knows that she is one of God's vigilant children, which to me seems like a manipulative tactic to get her to carry on the way that he wants her to carry on. But Tammy, these are signs that Tammy is struggling with depression. And you have to wonder, what is triggering this? Was she truly happy being married to Chad Daybell? Just a little bit step back here to remember how Chad and Tammy met. Chad and his first wife, Tammy Daybell, worked for the city. And according to a witness that knew the couple, they said, quote, both Chad and Tammy were excellent workers and did their jobs well and beyond expectation. Chad worked here more than once because he always did his job well, end quote. So there you go. There's a little bit of characteristics, personality, and what they were like, according to one of their friends or someone that knew of them. So Chad is employed several times, 3 or 4 times, in this cemetery. And his last position was a cemetery sexton, while his wife Tammy, worked at the parks, or as the park's secretary, and was responsible for cemetery records, selling cemetery plots, ambulance billing, and other duties. She worked in this office for probably, before marrying Chad and after for a period of time. And I want to remind you that everything that has to do with Chad is based around the cemetery. This is where he's getting his book ideas, is in the cemetery. Things such as The Gathering, Preparing for Zion, all these kinds of things. His books on grave digging. So when he speaks of ghost stories, he meets his wife, has a date with her at the cemetery, guys. So what's this strange attachment to the cemetery for Chad Daybell? So what's going through Chad's mind why he's working at the cemetery? Well, one of the books that he comes up with, I'll give you a description. It's been a remarkable year since the saints arrived in Independence, Missouri to establish the new Jerusalem. Now it has become a rapidly growing city as saints from around the world come to Zion. It is a time of relative peace, but there are still several important events that must take place before the second coming. Join the members of the North, Dalton, and Brown families as they participate in such events as the dedication of the New Jerusalem Temple and the discovery and the return of the 10 lost tribes. So everything just mentioned in that paragraph tells you the most important things that give Mormons an idea that the second coming is soon to take off. And I'll explain some of these events later on as we move forward. As the saints devise a plan to regain Salt Lake City from the evil leader Shurim and create cities of Zion throughout the Rocky Mountains, the coalition forces have regrouped and are planning another attack that will affect the entire world. The Rise of Zion is the 3rd novel in the best-selling Standing in Holy Places series. It paints a vivid picture of exciting prophesied events that still must occur before the second coming. If you have an interest in what awaits the members of the LDS Church, this series would definitely be on your reading list. So here we are. This is before Julie Rowe. And Chad is talking about the second coming of Jesus Christ, so the end of the world. The whole entire world is going to be a mess. And he sees himself as a leader, as one of the leaders, whether he claims it to be fiction or nonfiction, leading saints to get through this disaster. But to him, it's not a disaster. It's an exciting moment because this is these are the signs that Christ is coming back. If you're not familiar with the Mormon religion, a lot of people that are Mormon, they are excited about Jesus Christ's second coming, as are Christians with the resurrection. So this is something that is part of the Mormons, and Chad is looking forward to. So he is using some of the Mormon doctrine as excuse for his evil deeds. Not to be confused with me saying that it's because of Mormon doctrines. Chad is manipulating. Around July 2009, Lori and Joseph's battle over Tylee continues. So a few years later, in a report what was filed in the court, July 15, 2009, Mary Fogel quotes in a few documents saying that the fight over Tylee between these two parents, quote, is a highly dramatic and emotional custody suit, end quote, that continued to take a toll on the now 6-year-old Tylee, who was just recently diagnosed with pancreatitis, having had 2 episodes requiring hospitalizations. She says, quote, I suspect her medical and emotional state has been adversely affected by the sustained level of conflict and the many trials and legal proceedings in this case, end quote. So we're starting to see more court documents stressing that Lori she has the main custody over Tylee, and this is when Tylee is really struggling. Fogel also wrote in a 2009 report that, quote, Tylee is in need of a legal advocate. And she explains that Tylee's emotional well-being is not being fully examined or explained to the court. Now that's concerning. These same documents also shed light on Lori and Joseph's financial situation at this time during their divorce. So, which is before now, we know this, that Joseph was required to pay Lori around $1,500 a month in child support and purchase a life insurance policy, which I've already mentioned. So I found this very interesting and curious, and I know you will too. The fact that in these documents, Joseph's death will pay Lori Noreen Ryan an amount no less than $350,000 upon his death, of course. You may hear me mention this multiple times because I feel like this $350,000 life insurance is the motive police are looking for when Joe Ryan passes away unexpectedly. I mean, if there is foul play involved with this, well, there's your motive. And we'll talk more about that later in 2018. But you have to wonder, was this life insurance policy kind of like a threat while also looking out for herself? So Joseph Ryan does get to see Tylee for a small period of time. Facebook is kicking at this time. It's going pretty well. And he makes a few posts. He gets to spend time with his daughter Tylee in New York City. He takes her to see Mary Poppins. By this photo, it appears that Tylee is happy, and so is Joseph. But that moment of relaxation and happiness doesn't last long. July 17, 2009, Lori's ex-husband, Joseph Ryan, again files a custody suit against Lori in the state of Texas. The suit is carried over to Arizona courts, and note that it's in Maricopa County, Arizona. The record reads, from the state of Texas, 7/17/2009, in suit to modify parent-child relationship. Joseph Ryan, his fight for more time with Tylee starts to pay off, and it says in court records, it is further ordered that the movant shall have additional periods of possession to compensate for the periods of possession denied as follows. Okay, I had to switch mics, guys. One broke again. So Joe Ryan has been denied visitation time with his daughter, right? So we know this. And we know that he's been attacked. But now the courts are starting to see things. There's more court orders. And one of the orders for Lori Noreen Vallow is permanently enjoined from allowing Charles Vallow to be present during future exchanges of Tylee Ryan. Also, it is further ordered that no commitment is ordered. And there will be several more court dates and motions and filings that the judge has to deal with. And Tylee Ryan really doesn't get the attention and help that she needs. I mean, that's just very evident. Tylee's allowed to stay with her mother, and they've already said that they've had concerns about Lori mainly, but also the whole situation. So what is going on? Why would they not take the children out of that household for a little while? Probably because they're not sure exactly what's going on, and they don't want to create more stress on the child. It's unfortunate that they're having to deal with such a conniving fox that they really don't know how to help Tylee. Now, I want to go over something right before we close. Around the year 2000, I want you guys to pay very close attention to these groups. So, like I mentioned, there's a group called the Isaiah, if I can spit it out, Institute. And it covers the book of Isaiah. The group will merge with Preparing a People later on. So the Isaiah Institute was created, like I said, in the year 2000 by another group you'll find affiliated with Preparing a People later, the Hebrews Foundation. I hope I said that right. And the reason Isaiah is really starting to people are taking more interest in it is they're wanting to spread the message, sorry guys, of the prophet Isaiah, which is between 742 to 701 BC. A Mormon that goes by Dr. Abraham, I don't know how to say his last name, Galidi, has groundbreaking research and analysis of the book of Isaiah, and it provides an ideal medium for publishing Isaiah's end-time message to the world. So at one point, Mormons weren't really big on the book of Isaiah, but now we have a Mormon that's doing deep research on Isaiah, and he's really pushing it. Abraham says that Isaiah can be regarded as an obscure document from a remote age. It's a vibrant message, decoded after years of painstaking research by a leading authority. And a leading authority, he's speaking about himself in his field, now receives a new application as a sure guide to our rapidly changing world. To those who seek answers to today's perplexing questions, the book of Isaiah is God's gift to humanity. So this fear and warning, this book that speaks about end days, is a gift to humanity. So I really wanted to mention this because this will later also connect with other groups that are also connected to preparing the people later, which are all doomsday supporters. So a lot of people want to give credit to Julie Rowe or Hector Salsa and all the rest of this gang, but truthfully, no. And I will start going into more details of, places, Chad, especially Melanie Gibb, Lori Vallow, where they're hanging out, where they're getting their information, and we will start learning more details. And we will begin to understand how they took something that is taught by the Mormons and turn it into something a little bit different. Don't forget, guys, we still have these ladies. They're still missing. And these young boys. Please take a look at their face and their story. Share it. Don't give up on these guys. I want to say thank you to all those who have been giving to my Patreon. I want to do something special for you guys soon. and also for all my subscribers. You know, at Christmas time, I like to try to do something more targeted to interacting with you guys and, you know, paying my thanks. Hopefully, we'll get there soon. I love you guys to death, and I'll see you guys soon.